My name is the Reverend Rock and Roll, and I'm the founder, pastor, spiritual advisor of the Church of Elvis, and even more Latter-day Saints. We all know this album, right? We all know this album. Joy Division, Unknown Pleasures, April 1979, Factory Records UK. I'm not going to review the record, okay? You go on YouTube, and there's a ton of reviews about this record. And none of them are particularly novel. They all kind of say the same thing. But they're good, and I watched them for a reason. I'm not going to review this pressing or any pressing. This is old. Good luck finding one. I would never give advice on this record and its pressing. One of the all-time greatest covers of all time, though. The old Pulsar. CP1919, I believe. And I'm going to say this once, and I'm never going to say it again. I say this all the time on my channel, okay? All pulsars are neutrons. Not all neutrons are pulsars. I swear to God, you people are arguing in Costco and Walmart about celestial bodies you have no idea about. Okay, just stop it. One of the greatest covers of all time. I don't care if you agree or not. Go argue with your dog groomer. It's great. Now we know about the production. Martin Hannett. This is as much as his album as the band's album. Icy, cold, abrasive. And we know about Ian Curtis's performance and his lyrics and his tragic demise and the phoenix that is New Order. Are they still together? I have no idea. The band's performance. And although Martin's production gets a lot of the focus, you got to have good songs, and you have to, there's no Joy Division without Ian Curtis and his lyrics. So there's no one without the other. But it's very influential. It's an incredible album in the sense that it never feels in the present. It always feels like in the past or in the future. It's wild. And maybe that's part of its magic. But what it does to me and has done to me for decades always fascinated me. Even when it's background music, which it's not particularly good background music, but I sit down and I listen and end up reading about it and focusing on it. It's not many albums do that to me where I constantly pay attention to them when they're played. But I had an experience recently, very recently, that made me realize what the magic of what was going on with this album when I listened to it. Because it's puzzled me. And we know that we have a replication crisis in science. They won't tell you that, but whatever. Listening to sad music when you're sad can be helpful. And when you're happy, listening to happy music can extend that mood. It's common sense to some degree. But someone always has to have a p-value. A friend of mine, being a man of faith and science, I have a lot of weird friends, okay? Some people think I'm weird. Those scientists spend a lot of your tax dollars on weird stuff to try to cure diseases, to help people in rough states, for future research on neuronal networks and what have you. And one of my buddies runs a sensory deprivation lab. Let me tell you something. You can learn a lot about yourself in about 15 minutes in one of those sons of bitches, in one of those tanks. So recently, I asked that weird friend, I said, hey, you run one of those sensory deprivation tank labs. Can I try it out? And he smiled and was like, yeah. And I should have known that grin was a little awkward. He said, anytime, buddy. So I did it. And let me say, man, it was weird. It was really weird. This album came into my brain. The song Intrazone. In a situation where you're deprived of any sensory environment, no North Star of your sensory compass. Intrazone came up. And this album came into my brain. And I realized at that moment, that's what it does. This album is so consuming. and so immersive that there's nothing, when you listen to it, there's no room in your brain for anything else but this. It's overwhelming. This album and some of these songs and Ian Curtis create this chamber, this sensory chamber, where it blocks everything else. At least for me, that's what it does. It draws you in and it blocks everything out, like the tank I was in. This album and songs came into my brain with no stimulation other than no stimulation. This was the stimulation of my imagination when I had no grasp after about 10 minutes where the hell I was. So I think that's what happens when I listen to this album. It blocks out everything and only allows this album to be the focus. It's incredible. I've always thought about the magic it does, and I think that's what's so magical about this album. No other album, I think, has done that to me as consistently as Unknown Pleasures. And that's why this album, as long as we have years and don't wipe each other off the face of the earth, it's going to go on forever. That's why. Hope you're having a good day. Take care.